Hello guys, I'm SD Wolf. Welcome back to the channel. I said during the last video when we were doing our What Will Keep You Playing Planet Zoo video that if you provided some comments, I would get back on here and read them, and that's exactly what we're going to do. These are pretty long. We've got about 80 comments. I don't know if we'll go through every single one, so don't take it personal, but in the thought of not keeping you guys here for 45 minutes, hour and a half, let's just start reading through some of these, and I'll offer my feedback, and you guys can kind of justify other people's opinions, and maybe it was could be an avenue that you didn't think of, as you were formulating your thoughts on longevity of Planet Zoo and what keeps people coming back, what will stop them from coming back. And essentially that's what the original video was about, to kind of get us in here and engaging on what the community needs to see happen. And like I said, you guys have came through, so we will start right here at the top with Squantoon. Squantoon said, they said at Gamescom animals would not just go from baby to adult, that you would see its entire growth cycle, and nobody has ever pointed that out, that is not, nor has it ever been in the game. Also, breeding was supposed to be a rare occasion, and the second an animal has a baby, it is pregnant again. I will keep playing because I've always liked zoo games, but I really wish the DLCs were bigger. I don't care if they're double the price, but anything short of 10 animals. For continent-specific DLCs, which seems to be what they are doing, is a massive disappointment. I think we likely have 6 South American animals for the entire life of this game. Is odd considering is one of the most wildlife abundant places on Earth. And I think Squantoons kind of cycles back to me maybe not being as emotionally attached to animals, just because they just pop them out so quick. It's hard to get attached to one when it has 8 other siblings right behind it. My next buddy, Anders Vestergaard Jensen, more small habitats. Of course, I would like to also see birds and semi-aquatic species, as well as more exhibit options, but just a pretty simple thing is more species in the size range of lemurs to aardvarks would do a lot. With the DLCs, we only got the koala and the capuchin in this size range. The biggest group of mammals, the rodents, we don't have a single species of, and I see why mice, squirrels, and similar are complicated, but animals like porcupines, capybaras, and maras should be quite doable to add. Even most of the carnivores are big, and even though you can find a lot of popular species among smaller carnivores. And why is this important? Because the enclosure for smaller species often have a whole other feeling to it than for big carnivores and hoof stock. They bring in life in the odd corners of your park layout or next to your more empty feeling big enclosures. They can give more options for walk-through enclosures or mixed species habitat. They also make the bigger species feel more like highlights of your park, as is often in real life. A small mammals pack would do this game wonders, and I totally agree with Anders Vestergaard, because I find myself, even with Suyana and building in the zoos, the animals, it's like every single spot can't be a superstar animal, and that's kind of what I feel like sometimes when I'm designing. You go from lions to giraffes to elephants, oh my, it's just like one big giant animal after another, and I think it seems like we're lapsing a little on the derpy little small filler animals and the cool little animals like meerkats and such. Next up, my buddy Jan Chandler said, I'd love to see some interaction with the animals like in Zoo Tycoon, washing elephants and rhinos and feeding giraffes. Other than that, I need regular DLC to maintain my interest with new animals and scenery items. And Jan had said this before about if we could just get in and actually if you could go into first person mode and hose off the animals, anything like that would be cool, just that interaction. Next up, Aiden Thompson wrote, small animals. He's following Anders. It is hard to build a realistic zoo without small animals. Essential in this category are otters, alligators, birds, not necessarily eagles and stuff, but ibis, storks, cranes, flamingo-like birds, birds that can fly but not like really flying, if you know what I mean. These animals give depth to realistic zoos, something Planet Zoo lacks. More animals in this category, including fennec foxes, meerkats, red river hogs, capybaras, sloths, prairie dogs, lynxes, foxes, phosas, coatis, small monkeys, etc. We need depth, and I agree with Aiden on that. Next one up, my buddy Linda, aka Swashdashka, writing this while watching. So I also became a builder. Not a god one yet, but I only have less than 1 year practice now, so I think there's still a learning curve. To be honest, it surprised me that I am mostly a builder, since I was really hoping to connect with the animals more. I posted about that matter in February in the forums if you guys care to look. Some things have changed, but not much. I think it's not realistic to get DLCs quicker, though some people on the forum suggested a animal a month idea in addition to the DLCs that you could buy for some bucks. While I am a collector, and I would definitely do so, instead of drinking expensive coffee at a coffee shop, I guess most people would use their favorite word and shout scamming at Frontier's way. In my opinion, what we need are bigger DLCs. DLCs that keep us on our toes longer, and DLCs that not only include animals and building pieces, but features as well. New features in addition to the free updates. A big aquatic DLC without whales and dolphins for moral reasons would be a good example, but all in all, I think this game needs more management. When Planet Zoo was developed, Frontier thought of their players as the typical Planet Coaster player, mostly building, plopping a ride here or there, but looking at where we are now, that is only a small part of the community. We have typical management players that are kind of forgotten in their play style. We have the animal lovers to whom the animals now feel shallow and to whom the animal roster grows way too slow. And we have the builders who, to be fair, get a lot of stuff but still want more. tongue face. But in my opinion, Frontier needs to address the other two groups at first to make this community stable, prolong the lifespan of Planet Zoo, and even add more members to the Frontier family. I'll be honest with you, I'm one of those weird and boring one game players. I don't change my game much, and I played Sims ever since Sims 1 came out and only stopped with the release of Sims 4 because EA messed it up even more for me with Sims 4 than they did with 3, and I got tired of playing Sims 2 after 10 plus years. The risk that I get bored with Planet Zoo isn't really high for that matter. I feel at home with this game. It helps me grow. It is very creative. The possibilities are endless. I have a bigger fear that this game will not be supported long enough than I have, that I get bored with this game. But of course, things need to change. As I mentioned in the forum thread, I want the animals to have more personalities that also play a role in how I manage them. Give them that aggressive tiger girl that doesn't get along with others and I have to search along to find a good mate. Give me that star of the zoo that really is a moneymaker. Make breeding more difficult with some species and therefore more meaningful. I mean, even if a panda with bad fertility gets pregnant instantly in this game, as long as you've researched the animal to gold, in short, you know, make this more of a zoo management game and not only a zoo building simulator, as much as I love building. I'm still missing a lot of themes and animals in this game, and Animal Edition is another thing I really need. For that, Frontier has to step away with their current DLC model of continents once they are finished with that and release more meaningful DLCs. Honestly, I am here for 6 years or more worth of DLC. As a former Sims player, I find it weird that DLC and supports end so quick as it does with Planko and Jurassic World Evolution. So keep it coming, Frontier. And Estan, I hope you grabbed a snack while reading my long comments. Sorry, buddy. But, you know, she makes a lot of good points in this, particularly like in their quest to try to satisfy all kinds of different game styles. There's still a lot left from each of the sectors, like that are just wanting more. So definitely go back to the video and give her comment another once over, and she is definitely dropping some knowledge in that one on us. Iconic Leo says, all I want is for the animals to have more interactions or even host shows of trained animals as well as like some other zoos have. Good point on that. Talon Lee says, personally, I think we need new animal animations like diving and brachiation for apes. Good idea on that. Definitely would be up for some more animations. Sarah, my buddy Sarah said, I'd like to see less bugs and crashes, added vista points, more shops and different places to eat, more animals, especially key ones like otters, meerkats, penguins. I've never been to a zoo or wildlife park that didn't have these, particularly penguins, and better communication. I really can't see myself playing past this year if we still don't have key animals or something really unique or helpful added. Wyatt Andrews Workshop said, I keep playing for the building. I don't mind the lack of species necessarily when I can build super cool, realistic implied exhibits anyway. What I do need is more fences and less cartoony habitat scenery, especially gates. And I definitely 100% back up Wyatt on that one. My buddy Fate said, to be honest, you were right about the animal thing. After you review them and add them in your zoo, the rest of the DLC simply comes from scenery and etc. The animals don't really interest me long enough, and I am right with Fate on that. And that goes back to the original point of the first video. Just it just didn't grab me, you know, like I thought it would. Cyberus said, I only began to play in June because I finally upgraded my laptop. I bought it along with the Arctic DLC as a Christmas present for myself. I differ with you on the emotional connection, but I've always been like that. I do understand that though. I don't have that connection of sorts with all animals. The overbreeding is definitely an issue, especially with the numbered challenges. I'm not ultimately familiar with all the building, and you've been a huge inspiration, man. I enjoy the thematic elements, but I think that we should get a better balance of animals to objects. I won't be complaining about the scenery though. It's super useful. Sorry for the rant. Great work. You guys never have to apologize for your rants. I love reading through them, good or bad. My next buddy, Lili Laneka, said, I agree. We need many more animals. 3 months between seems long, especially since it is so few animals given. Perhaps a refill pack in between. A surprise would help. I also think the game lacks plants. Sounds weird as many are happy about that, but the adversity for some of the biomes is next to nil. You just can't keep going on like that. As a real gardener and a designer, it is difficult. Even with the total amount of plants, not just need for more in certain biomes, there is little to contrast in shapes. It's just frustrating. Also, the odd tree stumps or similar we should have a lot more options with those as well. The big log from the South America DLC, why doesn't it have siblings in all shapes and sizes? And I am 100% with you on that. I really wish when they give us these awesome tree trunks, they would think, okay, let's give that to them in medium and small and extra large. I am working on terraforming an Australian map now, which I plan to upload. If I used only desert biome from Oceania, it would be terribly boring. I also wish for more animals. Birds I would love, and fish, of course, if only as environment like the dust and falling leaves, etc. At least that until they release some real habitat, birds, and fish. The game is becoming static. Animal behavior needs more interactions alone or interactions between them, and also something for the quest to for the guests to interact with. There's just so many times one can build implied playgrounds or bike rentals. A petting zoo with a European pack would be awesome. The item piece count per pack is fair except for the plants. Thanks for all your videos. They brighten my day and inspire me. Thank you, Lily. And next up, my buddy David Lamb said, you know how I feel, man. They have to stop sidestepping aquatic animals. I hate to say it, but I'm like, Frontier, please don't Frontier this. Laughing my ass off. Just give us water animals. And David, you know, really being a little blunt on the Frontier side of things. But, you know, I kind of get what he's saying. Just give us the aquatic animals. So many people want it. Luke Christian said, great video, S-Dan, and I think an important point of discussion. Here's my 2 cents. It's a long one. Animals. I feel like people don't feel connected with their animals for various reasons, but I feel like giving animals randomized traits or personality behaviors could be something that would help, i.e. shy personalities or aggressive behavior. This would make them more unique, and you would be able to find distinction between them. Really good point. His next point, DLCs, far too small in their offering. I feel like the game will be end of life prior to having animals that could really make the game more enjoyable. Personally, I'd be happy with rotation, similar to the Planko route with animal pack, scenery pack, animal pack, scenery pack. This could allow them to expand the game at a much faster rate and maximize on their gaming audience. Although controversial, I am a person that would love to see orcas and dolphins, etc. in the game. I understand not everyone will want to have them in the game, given the history of captivity, but I think if it was handled and implemented well, it could bring great awareness on the issues with having these animals in captivity. One way to implement orcas into the game in a humane way would be that they would not be able to be held in captivity, but a scenario with an ocean map, aquatic sanctuary, sea pen, etc., where they would not be held in tanks, but out in the open ocean. There are real-life concepts for these facilities. I know Frontier wouldn't do it, but they could really raise awareness and continue the momentum around orcas being held in captivity for breeding, etc. If they wanted to, they could restrict the orcas to only being accessible in that ocean map to prevent any kind of tank building, etc. On the DLC front, aquatic animals and flying animals are a must. People are screaming out for these. They really need to deliver and continue to hold their audience's attention. If they aren't able to implement these into the game, they need to make it clear and nip it in the butt sooner rather than later. I also like the idea of having what I'd call smaller optional DLCs, like realism packs, i.e. cars, backstage props, game-changing features. I'd like to see an expansion of exhibit animals, custom exhibits at the very least, different shapes. Aquariums is a big one on everyone's wish list. Let's see them implement that. Educational shows, transport rides. I'd love to see more generic transport rides, stuff that isn't too stylized and over the top. They've remained in the Planko funk in that aspect, way too over stylized on the transport rides. Planko features, restaurants, hotels, billboards. So many of these features could be implemented while the game is still relatively young, and I'm sure at some point it will happen. Those were Planko's staples. Also barriers like, come on, and random events. How cool would it be to have random events, i.e. the Indonesian government has become aware of your great reputation of caring for animals and would like to propose a deal to lend you a pair of Komodo dragons in an effort to contribute to a greater breeding program. I think this could be a really interesting addition to the game. Frontier engagement. I personally feel that Frontier needs to be more transparent and open about the development, timelines, and restrictions that they have, and stop the radio silence in between DLCs. The number of people playing the game seems super low, and this game deserves so much more than that. They need to engage their community and actively seek feedback or ways to improve. The Sims, EA, Maxis learned this the hard way. Frontier doesn't have to end up down the same route. Next up, Ann G said, I hear you about the animal connection. It seems like I spend so much time just putting out fires that I don't have the time to just sit and watch the animals. There is too much going on too fast. Too many animals go wrong. Too many things go wrong that is just unrealistic, especially since they kept stressing the realism that they were trying to achieve. The aging process needs to have more stages also, including having eggs. Baby primates should be on their mom's backs, etc. Plus, there are not enough animals. I would also like more pre-made pieces for those of us that are really bad and dislike building. What do we have here next? Fizzylock says, as a big Tycoon player who spent most of the time repeatedly playing the scenarios in the challenge mode, I was very disappointed with the scenarios in Planet Zoo. Most of the zoo is already built for you to such an extent it's difficult to fit in, especially when you can't change terrain or building placement. So annoying. They have none of the charm or the challenge of the Zoo Tycoon 2 ones, which all had very different and interesting objects instead of just get X amount of guests in your zoo, turn over X profit, get X amount of animals. Also, aquatic animals. How could we not have penguins from the start? They are such a basic expected zoo animal, but of course they have to swim underwater. I had hoped they wouldn't stick to the Planet Coaster DLC format of small DLC with no new game mechanics, so I was disappointed when that is exactly what they have done. I really hope they're working on bigger expansions with new game mechanics such as underwater swimming and flying, tanks and aquariums, etc., instead of just a few animals animals and lots of scenery. I do like the lots of scenery, but I want new game mechanics to use with it. When we get penguins, seals, rays, shark, etc., I would be much happier, and aviaries would be awesome. Until we have penguins, the game will feel incomplete for me. At release, I couldn't believe we didn't have them. They are such a basic zoo animal. Oh, let's see. I want to try to get through a good bit of these. Let's see. Danny Opa said, wish they would bring in doing zoo tours and playgrounds. More interactive stuff for the guests, shows and encounters with the animals, and more range of building and aquatic animals. Definitely good points on that. Let's see here. G Casa 94 said, I agree with everything you said. The animals didn't make me feel as I thought they would, but okay, the creative tools are great, and what makes me want to play is the possibility to design and build beautiful buildings and natural landscapes. Of course, I'm really interested in new content, but beautiful animals, parentheses, they don't behave as I would like, but they do look good, and new plants, hopefully better than some of the ones we already have. But maybe first of all, I hope for better graphic optimization, especially wider draw distance. Nothing in this game makes sense to me if it doesn't look good. Nothing is fun to play. Beauty is the key of Planet Zoo. I hope they realize that. Of course, they still have to work on a lot of things. Time is super fast. Some animals have wrong sizes or move unnaturally. To make guests happy is a nightmare in this game. Okay. Next up, my buddy New Age come up with some really good points. I think we'll finish up with New Age here, and there were so many I didn't get to. Maybe we will jump back in and read some more in another video, but I know I've already kept you guys here this long, so let's finish up with New Age because we've got a pretty decent one here. Long post down here, very open to discussion. Firstly, I agree. I almost miss this emotional connection to the animals. I think there needs to be a better balance of managing the animals, making it feel like you are involved in their daily lives. Perhaps one way is to increase the role of injuries and diseases by making some of it chronicle. It increases the work for the manager, but also increases the elation when you save these animals, or the sadness when you decide to put one down to end their suffering. And the next part is, I understand fully that you as a content creator are dependent on the games you play. So I'm sorry if this sounds snarky. It's not up to Frontier to save your career. The only thing you can do is suggest improvements and channel fans' impressions to whomever is willing to listen, which don't seem to be many people up at Frontier. If you are under creative pressure for releasing videos, you might have to reevaluate what motivates you to continue YouTube. Casual players are the target group for Planet Zoo, the ones that want to have a basic zoo with all animals. They buy each DLC, check out the animals, and leave the creative aspect aside because it's so daunting. This is fine with Frontier because they don't make more profit from people who play hundreds of hours compared to a few dozen hours. Bringing out sequels just to address certain mechanics, not a big fan of this. It's easy for them to say they will fix issues in a new installment, but we will choose to buy and consume these games to a fault as well. And there are real examples of Frontier not addressing these when you look at the players' experiences from Planet Coaster to Planet Zoo. I don't trust the company to deliver on these promises because they want to keep making money in the future. When they half-heartedly support JWE and Planet Zoo with new yet lackluster content, they are draining us of money. Then they stop supporting it and shortly release a new installment which also feels incomplete. Do you see this cycle? It seems they don't want to create a very solid game. So, that New Age has come across a little harsh on that. But, at the same time, he does make some pretty good points. I just think, there's a lot of stuff also behind the scenes that Linda had alluded to as well. Her and I had talked on Twitter about a week or so ago, is we don't know how many of them are still working at home. We don't know how much COVID has put them behind. And so, you know, I want to give the benefit of the doubt to Frontier, but you know, it's still, even if COVID wasn't the situation as far as when the game first came out, there are still some validity to a lot of your comments, and I hope it's stuff that gets addressed. A lot of you guys, as always, you make a ton of sense, very articulate, and it's always fun to jump in and have these discussion videos with you. But yeah, if I didn't get to you, I am so stinking sorry. We will try to get to I'll try to get to your comments maybe in another video, but don't forget to smash the like button if you end up enjoying these discussion type review videos. And no, I have not given up on Planet Zoo on you. I am just really unmotivated right now. I don't have any ideas popping for anything, but as always, that stuff comes and goes. I might even have a new zoo out by next month, for all we know. That's just how it rolls with me in these games. But anyways, I love having you here. As always, thank you guys for stopping by and hanging out with me, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you. See ya.